Volcanoes, hurricanes, earthquakes. In spite of the technology at their disposal, experts still can't predict when the next natural disaster will occur. But there's a special breed of psychics who claim they can.
My relationship to the Earth has become almost symbiotic.
They're called Earth Sensitives, and they claim to have a unique metaphysical bond with Mother Earth. Sean David Morton of Hermosa Beach, California, is a psychic who uses a futuristic map-reading technique called cartomancy, whereby touching a map, he claims he can predict natural disasters.
You can actually feel the energy as it pulls back to create the wave, and then as the wave begins to build into a plateau, there's a window for when that event is going to occur.
In September of 1993, Morton sensed a massive energy wave building in Southern California. He claims this energy wave was generated by natural imbalances, which came in the form of heavy rains and rampant fires in Malibu.
Usually you'll have great fires before you you have floods, and then before you have earthquakes. So when one element gets out of balance, the other elements usually follow suit.
In October of 1993, Morton documented his concern in his monthly newsletter. He predicted that a major earthquake would strike in the next few months in the region of Northridge, California. On January 17th, just 3 months later, Morton's frightening prophetic vision came to realization. A magnitude 6.7 quake rocks Los Angeles. Its epicenter, Northridge. Recently, Morton has sensed other mounting waves of geological energy. And to broadcast his warnings, he agreed to let us witness one of his normally private cartomancy sessions.
Okay.
It takes a few moments of meditation and chanting for Morton to reach a state of psychic readiness. As soon as he touches the map, he is flooded by visions of a massive quake in a region not normally associated with seismic activity.
There's a very, very substantial earthquake in the St. Louis area. I mean, we're looking at a precursor to something, but it's about a 6 in this area of Missouri, Memphis, Tennessee. This whole area right here in the Midwest, I think, is gearing up for a pretty substantial quake.
Then, Morton's fingers reach beyond the United States, where he detects a disturbance in Italy.
I'm also seeing, oh, this is interesting, I'm seeing the great floods also in the northern part of Italy. There's a whole city in Italy that appears to be just, I'm seeing news flashes of it now, where the whole city in Italy just is washed away.
Will Morton's predictions come true? Only time will tell. But he's not the only one who claims to have a psychic bond with Mother Nature.
I am able to perceive what the Earth is going through in any given place on the Earth.
According to Gordon Michael Scallion, he didn't choose his psychic gift, it chose him. In 1979, Scallion says he was overwhelmed by visions of climactic changes in the Earth's geology.
My reaction to the visions was one of complete terror at first.
But Scallion soon began to realize the potential impact of these disturbing visions. Settling in the New Hampshire countryside, he and his wife Cynthia opened the Matrix Institute, which disseminates Scallion's predictions via a newsletter and website.
Welcome to Intuitive Flash's weekly web broadcast.
Scallion claims he predicted deadly catastrophes, such as the Northridge earthquake and the deadly temblor that nearly destroyed Kobe, Japan.
I've also observed other phenomena, such as hurricanes, Hurricane Andrew. We knew when it was going to come ashore. We knew the amount of damage.
Scallion claims that over time, he has learned to control his prophetic powers by putting himself in a deep trance.
At key times of the year or month, I'm able to enter into a deeper state of consciousness and communicate directly with the Earth.
Once every month, Scallion enters into a deep trance he calls the Matrix Cycle, where he gathers data for developing his future map of the world. Scallion claims these deep matrix trances are too sensitive to be videotaped, but he did agree to go into a light trance and offer up his latest geological predictions.
Let us begin.
His wife Cynthia acts as an intermediary.
Do you see any major geological events happening in the United States?
Not as would be termed cataclysmic, Yet there shall be divisions of lands or separations. These occur in the middle of the United States.
As for earthquake-prone California, Scallion foresees a radical transformation. California
itself still continues to exist. However, it is in a series of islands, a breaking up, 150 in number approximately.
While Earth sensitives like Scallion and Morton claim high accuracy rates, skeptics like Dr. Robert Butterworth allege that too often people pursue psychic careers based on just one or two lucky guesses.
If you throw enough darts, you're going to hit the bullseye. So what we tend to do is we tend to remember the times that it happens, and we tend to forget all the times that it didn't.
But incredibly, just 5 days after we recorded Morton's interview, one of his prophecies came true. A section of northern Italy was indeed devastated by massive floods, just as Morton had predicted. We tracked down Morton to get his reaction to this startling development.
I suppose I should just say, oh yes, I'm El Predicto, and of course I can do this, but I'm continually humbled by the fact that I can tap into a higher force and a higher power and actually get information that I feel will warn people.
From matrix cycles to cartomancy, Earth sensitives are keeping the psychic eyes on our geological future and hoping that someday more people will pay attention to their secret powers of prophecy before it's too late. But now others are using these same psychic powers to investigate mysterious claims of the supernatural. Creaking doors, cold wind in a closed room, strange figures moving in the shadows. For centuries, haunted houses have aroused our fear and curiosity. Yet the most haunted place in America may not be a house at all, but instead a retired aircraft carrier. The USS Hornet. She logged 30 years of faithful service before being decommissioned in 1970. Then, after years of sitting in mothballs, the Hornet opened as a floating museum in 1998. Ever since, there have been scores of strange occurrences reported, such as the ship's controls moving on their own, as well as disembodied footsteps and voices.
Right below the flight deck, there was a voice that said, "Over here," and that was witnessed by a number of people.
Other times, people claim to have seen apparitions.
There's probably in excess of 40 people that have seen spirits or apparitions or whatever you want to call them. And in 4 instances, which is really interesting, 2 people at the same time saw the apparition.
Bob Rogers works at the USS Hornet, which is now a museum in Alameda, California. According to Rogers, the Hornet served in the Pacific during World War II, where its aircraft sunk a record 73 enemy ships. Although the Hornet was attacked 59 times, incredibly, it was never hit by a single bomb, torpedo, or kamikaze. Rogers has heard many stories about the Hornet and the sailors who forged an enduring bond in the crucible of battle.
This was a very loved ship when she was in operation.
But Rogers was skeptical about stories of ghosts. That is, until the day he saw one himself.
I've seen a man go down to the engine room, and I got down there and there was no one there. All the spirits that we've had on the ship, and they aren't willowy or wispy, they're people. They look just like regular people.
Rogers came to believe that the ghosts on board were real, but he also wondered why they were haunting the ship. To help answer this question, Rogers contacted well-known psychic Stosh Murray.
In my wildest dreams, I never thought I'd be contacting a psychic.
But Murray earned Rogers' trust on her first visit to the Hornet when she saw a vision of the engineering log room, which had been sealed shut for some time.
Stosh Murray described that room without ever seeing it.
I was compelled to come into this area because of the fact that I felt the entity's absolute desperation.
Now, Murray acts as a psychic ambassador between the crew and the spirits who welcomed her aboard.
I had asked permission to board the ship, followed protocol. It was granted. They wanted me to come. They knew what was going on. We had agreed. It was a mind-to-mind telepathic communication that was understood.
To help Murray in her psychic research, Bob Rogers enlisted renowned paranormal investigator Lloyd Auerbach, who employs scientific equipment that complements Murray's abilities.
The best detectors of this phenomena are human beings. That's how we define it. What we're using equipment for is to determine whether or not there's something in the physical environment we can corroborate the human experience with.
One of Auerbach's key tools is the magnetometer, a device that responds to magnetic energy, the energy field that some experts believe ghosts emit. One chilly fall evening, Auerbach and Murray allow our cameras to accompany them on board the Hornet for a special research project. For the first time ever, a group of volunteers who have never been on board the ship are being tested to see if they experience any reaction to the supernatural forces reported to haunt the carrier's historic decks.
We have multiple witnesses, constant happenings, new happenings, and that gives me kind of a living laboratory. Just want you to walk around each of the spots. If you get anything, in other words, if you feel weirdness, any change in your state of being, so to speak, just go ahead and jot it down.
So far, the group hasn't experienced any strong, unexplained reactions. Meanwhile, Murray guides us to one of the ship's most powerful hotspots, the Hornet's medical facilities.
Let me tell you something, what we're entering is very significant and important because many lives here had incredible experiences.
Most of the 300 servicemen who died on board over the years died here, and Murray claims she can still feel their pain.
Swear to God, I don't mean to be heebie-jeebie, but you can feel it.
But then, something strange happens.
The energy. I'll tell you, give me your hand real quick. You'll feel it. That's what we're, yes. It's for real, isn't it?
Our camera equipment becomes unstable. Strange blue lines appear that can't be explained. Could this be a sign of a paranormal occurrence? In another part of the ghost ship, the research group is winding its way through the labyrinth of chambers and corridors. In certain areas, they note their sensations, all the while searching for a glimpse of one of the ship's elusive ghostly crew.
There are specific ones, I would say, a good 15 or 20 that I know are specifically here on a routine basis.
One of them is Admiral J.J. Clark, Jocko Clark, who was aboard the ship during World War II, and he was identified by people having seen the apparition and looking at the photos.
According to Murray, another ghost on board has earned a notorious reputation.
It feels like he's very flirty.
He's very flirty. He wants to dance with you very badly, doesn't he?
I'm not dancing.
He wants to dance with you and he's very flirty. He's shy.
Recently, a museum worker complained about the ghost, and the spirit of Admiral Clark was asked to step in.
We had one situation where a receptionist was having problems with a sailor who was apparently inappropriate with her. And at one point, Stash and I decided that the best thing to do would be to talk to Clark or one of the other officers and get him to order the other ghost to lay off. And he did, at least for a couple weeks.
After the tour of psychic hotspots is ended, Auerbach questions his volunteers.
But I want to just kind of get a feel for what you guys got. Did anybody pick up anything unusual as we were walking through?
Yeah, I did. I felt like there was somebody walking with us. I felt a little dizzy, and this is actually the second time that I felt a hand on my back sort of assisting me over the doorways.
Bunks there behind the damaged lockers, that's where I felt. As I started to step toward it, it was like there was someone standing back there, and they didn't want me to come any closer, so I just backed away.
Finally, Auerbach and Murray bring the group to the main focal point of the Hornet's spiritual energy, the hangar bay. They ask them to sit in a circle as they try to attract some of the ghosts.
We're going to try and kind of use us as a focal point. We have the music playing because we know that these guys lived aboard the ship during the 1940s, and we want to try to give them some sort of familiar setting for this.
According to Murray, she uses her psychic abilities to transform the circle into a kind of spirit magnet that will attract the ghosts.
What we're going to do is draw their energy in closer, okay? So I'm going to go like this and face yours to each other, one another, okay? We're going to use energy work here, just like we're using the music to draw them in. You can feel that.
As the exercise unfolds, Auerbach's magnetometer begins to react, indicating the sudden presence of a magnetic energy field.
Feel it. The buzzers are going off. Apparently we brought it in. That's successful. That's pretty hot stuff.
In the 3 years since she first visited the USS Hornet, Stash Murray believes her work may have changed some minds.
During the period that I've been working on the Hornet, it's been absolutely tremendous because what's happened is skeptics and believers have encountered paranormal activity. So minds are opened and pathways are open.
But the question that has still lingered in everyone's mind is why? Why are the spirits of long-dead servicemen haunting the Hornet?
I think what's special about the ship is that it reminds them of a time in their lives when there was that kind of camaraderie, something that they never had again after that.
But Bob Rogers believes the ghostly servicemen are trying to deliver a message.
I think the message that the spirits are trying to say is that Hornet is a monument to peace. They want to tell the story of the 20th century and what they went through on the ship.
Auerbach hopes that lively haunted places like the Hornet will make us all think a bit more about life and what it means to be human.
This stuff is not harmful. In fact, this should attack your sense of wonder. If you think about it, what this says is that human beings are more than just this body.
But can you communicate with something that has no body? Some believe you can, with a little psychic help. It's a quiet Saturday night in Reseda, California. But at this unassuming home, people from all walks of life are preparing for a spiritual journey that will be anything but ordinary.
It's my first time here, and I guess frankly I don't know what to make of it.
It just invigorates you, and you leave here feeling like you're up on cloud nine.
They're here to meet this man, Brian Hurst, who is known to be a gifted medium.
To me, it's as natural as eating my breakfast. It doesn't feel strange. Every day I'm receiving these bits and pieces.
From a very early age growing up in England, Hurst realized he possessed a unique psychic ability.
I've learned, fortunately, to switch it off. But when I was in my 20s, it kept me awake at night.
Today, he uses this mysterious talent to help families and individuals desperately searching for answers from loved ones.
I try to facilitate the healing and closure in the minds of people who are in great distress over the loss of loved ones.
Hurst is a medium, a person of clairvoyant power who claims to bring messages to the living by connecting with the dead.
You have been getting some funny rings on the telephone and nobody's there.
Yeah.
The telephone rings, you pick it up and there's nobody there.
It rings once.
Yeah, okay. She's got someone to try and do that.
Okay.
She's been trying to give you signals.
His ability to decipher these signals is what he says sets him apart from all the rest.
I seem to have the knack of being able to tune in to the thoughts and voices and personalities of people who've made the change called death.
Tonight, we've been granted rare access to Brian's home to join a small group of people who have paid $15 each in hopes of making contact with the dead. Bonnie Chubb lost her husband of 35 years, Bob, after a battle with leukemia. She's here tonight with their two sons, Glenn and Mark.
Our father passed away in March of '98, and we're hoping to be able to reach out and communicate with him through Brian.
But more than just communication, Bonnie is looking for reassurance.
I wanted to know that my husband was okay, that he was at peace, that he wasn't in pain anymore.
But can Hurst really converse with Bonnie's deceased husband? As the session begins, the room becomes quiet as Hurst settles into a state of deep concentration, trying to make contact with the afterlife.
I'm aware of a tingling sensation in my forehead as the third eye begins to open up, and then I begin to hear these little speeded up whispers.
Bonnie and her sons wait patiently. Suddenly, Hurst is bombarded by a stream of voices, spirits identifying themselves from the other side.
They just want to say their names, like when somebody's being interviewed on television, people in the background are often waving banners and, listen to me, I'm here, The messages come in what I describe as being rather like telegrams from heaven.
But there's one voice that so far has remained absent.
Just can't believe that my late husband hasn't been up there pushing his way up to the front.
Oh, that's a very good, thank you. Your name, my friend, is?
Bonnie.
Bonnie. You are Bonnie. and you cannot believe that your late husband has not been at the front pushing his way forward. Well, I can ask them.
To help Bonnie reach her husband, Hearst calls on a spirit guide he calls Dr. Grant.
Dr. Grant, Bonnie's lost her husband and she's anxious to hear something about him. Is there anyone in your world who knows anything about him?
Hearst begins to receive a message.
Is there somebody Mike or Mark?
This is Mark, and his brother's name is Mike.
They're definitely, he's mentioning something about Mark. And Mark, you did say prayers. You're Jewish, are you, Mark?
Yes.
Because did you go to to a temple or something and say prayers for your father?
Yes, I did.
And he thanks you.
Then Hearst asks a startling question about the family.
Should there be 4?
Yeah, we have a stepbrother.
Oh, you have a stepbrother? Because they're saying he's saying something about there being 4.
The thing that put me over the edge was when he said, "There's only 3 of you, there should be 4 of you here."
Hearst identifies the missing stepbrother.
This boy has some Hispanic ancestry, does he? Huh. Okay.
His name is Eduardo, an adopted son from Costa Rica.
It wasn't enough for him to say there was one missing, but then he mentioned that the one missing was Hispanic. And that's just not a normal family situation that Brian could have guessed at.
By now, the family is certain that Hearst isn't guessing.
It got very emotional. I remember my mom put both of her hands out to hold our hands, and it was real exciting.
But their excitement is just beginning.
He says, I've met Maury. Tell my wife I've met Maury, and they've had some discussion about birds. What does he mean by birds?
Right after my husband passed away, one of Eduardo's friends came over with 2 birds. One died, but the other one was fine and with us until just a couple of weeks ago.
But the family is stunned when Hearst comes up with the name Sophie.
He's met somebody called Sophie also. He said he thinks that Sophie has seen him. Okay, he says, I've been there. He says, I've been talking to Sophie. And he said, I think Sophie saw me.
Bonnie can't believe what she's hearing.
Sophie was the love of his life. I would hope that I was, but his second place was our Pomeranian, Sophie.
So Sophie is your dog, is she?
Yes.
Wow. And your husband was very close to Sophie the dog? Yes. All right. Am I giving you proof? Am I giving you evidence? I hope so.
As tonight's session comes to a close, Bonnie is in a state of shock.
Unbelievable. I mean, there were so many things that nobody would know. The birds dying. Eduardo, the dog. I mean,
For Bonnie and her sons, tonight's experience has brought them the answers they were searching for.
I felt very good when I left. I felt relieved to know that he was all right and he was at peace, he wasn't in pain, and he was with people.
Tonight's journey into the afterlife has come to an end for Brian Hearst, a simple man who makes an extraordinary claim to be able to speak with the dead. Although there is no evidence to back this claim, many people continue to believe in his power.
There are people that come to me who've told me that their whole lives have been transformed since they met me, and that to me is an honor. I feel like it's a very special thing. It's very special work. Thank you. Thank you.
While Hearst continues to bring hope to his small group of believers, another man is using the power of the paranormal to amaze audiences around the world. The incredible power of the psychic mind.
This is excessively dangerous.
Can a man bend a razor between his fingers without getting a single cut? Drive blindfolded down a dangerous city street? Or can he cause images to miraculously appear in the sand? Jan Barty is an entertainer who claims to possess all of these powers. But now we're about to uncover the secrets behind this master of mind control as he attempts to find the one car that matches a key taken from one of these volunteers, a psychic stunt that has failed in the past.
That key becomes the bullet, the thing that could kill me.
We travel to Barty's home in Belgium to uncover the secrets of his psychic stunts. Although he holds degrees in economics and engineering from the University of Louvain, Barty claims the key to his psychic success is a combination of psychology and intuition.
So in a way, I'm a mind hacker. I'm very, very apt in using little quirks of applied psychology.
Barty believes that everyone has the same power to decode and interpret human behavior. But the secret is that he's learned to use this applied psychology to create the illusion of psychic power.
This is an art about controlling people's minds without them being aware. By making sure that you're offering the most interesting thing for them to watch or to listen to or to perceive.
But then, how does Barty use the mind to drive down a street blindfolded? He claims the secret is to trust your mind and tap into all of your senses.
We have sound. We have smell. We have an impression of nearness. Close your eyes and try to judge the distance between yourself and the person sitting next to you, for instance. All that information can be used to drive a car.
But in a television studio in Hollywood, where Barty will attempt his most difficult stunt, he must first make the audience believe that he is truly psychic.
The moment I'm losing their concentration, the thing will fail.
To get the audience on his side, Barty asks them to participate in a simple but effective psychic trick.
Follow my actions and maybe you, sitting at home, you sitting here, will feel the power of your own pendulum. If your coin is of an odd value, then the pendulum will tend to swing from left to right, like this. It works there? Yes? Yeah?
The audience believes that it works.
All right, congratulations, you have succeeded your pendulum test.
Barty believes he now has the audience under his control. He can then move on to the real challenge, to find the car that matches a key chosen at random from the audience.
I want all of you who have a car key with you to raise your hand with your car key.
With several volunteers selected, Barty focuses with what he calls a secret tool.
It's a dowsing rod.
This is a folded piece of metal, basically. When you take it, you stretch that fold to its limits. It allows you to tap into your own intuitive knowledge.
Barty started with 10 keys. Now there is only one in the handkerchief. He heads into the parking lot with the volunteers, all of whom know which key was picked and who it belongs to. While the audience will be watching the dowsing rod, Barty will be secretly reading the volunteers' body language to try and determine whose key it is and which car it fits.
I was really calling all the troops, because that's the big moment. And that's when I needed all the information I could get.
That may be a fluke. Try it again. No, we get it again. Try that. Yeah, okay.
Barty narrows it down to 3 cars, but he reveals that the woman holding the key will help him in this difficult stunt.
She was the one who picked it, and she feels responsible, which means that she starts to direct her energies towards me succeeding.
After making eye contact with the woman, Barty tells the audience that he's sensing something from the first car.
It was also a physical sensation. Yes, this could be it. No, there's something wrong here. Really wrong.
But then Barty moves on to the second car. Again, there's something not right. Could the third car be the one, or will Barty fail again?
Okay, I take the chance. Does this car belong to any of you? It's your car?
Barty thinks he's got it, but is he right? There's only one way to find out.
Let's try it. Remove the key and open the door.
She started moving for that door with her key. I said, well, oh no, I hope I'm right.
Take it out and open the door.
When she was trying to turn that key, I was dead scared.
Well, I do thank you.
I was so relieved. I was so relieved. Nothing could go wrong anymore at that moment. Yeah.
Barty's mastery of the secrets of psychology have made this challenging stunt a crowd-pleasing success. But could psychics like Jan Barty also play a role in shaping events on the world stage? During Ronald Reagan's 8-year presidency, Air Force One always took off and landed at exactly 5 minutes before the hour, or precisely 20 minutes after. In addition, Reagan never started a press conference at exactly the same time. And on certain days of the week, he refused to make foreign policy statements to the media. Why did the President of the United States adhere to this peculiar and rigid schedule? And who was the person planning it for him? You may not recognize her or know her by name, but Joan Quigley was one of Ronald Reagan's most trusted and secret advisors.
I was involved with the Reagan administration from May of '81 to May of '88, almost exactly 7 years.
This is the infamous White House astrologer. As First Lady Nancy Reagan's most trusted advisor, Quigley operated under a cloak of secrecy. If word leaked out that the Reagans were consulting an astrologer, it would have cast a suspicious light on the administration.
I didn't reveal ever that I was Nancy Reagan's astrologer. I kept absolute secrecy, and so did my family.
Nancy Reagan was unlike any other First Lady. As her husband's closest confidant, anyone who had Nancy's ear also had the president's.
I always knew that Nancy was telling Ronnie what I was saying. And he also would say sometimes, what does Joan say about various things?
Quigley says she monitored the Reagan star charts. As a result, Ronald Reagan's schedule was crafted for maximum astrological success.
I was setting the times for everything that happened. When Air Force One would take off and land, I established times for the press conferences. And then, of course, I picked the night that he debated Carter.
Quigley also kept an eye on the First Lady's chart. One chilling prediction, she says, may have saved Nancy's life.
I saw Nancy was going to have breast cancer. I didn't want to alarm her, but I said to her, look, have your mammograms at least 3 or 4 times this year, which she did, and they caught it in the very beginning.
In time, the Reagan's perfect timing raised eyebrows in the stargazing community.
All the astrologers I knew were saying, now we know an astrologer's doing the Reagans. I wonder who it is. And I said, I have no idea.
But how did Quigley secretly communicate with the most visible couple in the country? With the White House staff and the Secret Service on full alert around the clock, Quigley says face-to-face contact was out of the question.
I saw her twice in my life, and everything was on the phone. We were constantly on the phone together. We had an intermediary, one of her friends, who, in fact, 2 of her friends did it at various times.
But this covert scheme had built-in problems.
One of them was traveling so much that it became inconvenient. Nancy said, please use the White House switchboard. And I said, that's very bad because switchboards will talk.
Quigley's greatest contribution came in November of 1986. Reagan was preparing for an historic summit with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. But pre-summit negotiations were deadlocked due to the growing distrust between both leaders. That's when Quigley says Reagan turned to her for advice.
I said to him, Mr. President, I think you've been chosen to bring peace. And he smiled all over.
Quigley worked to convince the president that peace with the Soviets was within his grasp.
I think the most important thing I ever did in my life was the 3 hours I spent convincing Nancy Reagan that Mikhail Gorbachev was someone that Ronnie could deal with. And I said, he's also highly intelligent, open to new ideas, and I promise you he'll share a vision with Ronnie.
Indeed, it was the first step to resolving the Cold War. And as a result, after 2 terms, Ronald Reagan left office as one of the most beloved presidents of all time. Despite the media frenzy that broke when Joan Quigley's identity was finally revealed, she is proud of her contribution to the Reagan presidency.
I was quite reliable, and Nancy knew that. So did Ronnie.
In her 1989 memoirs, Nancy Reagan expressed her gratitude to Quigley as someone she could turn to with her fears and anxieties. Today, Quigley has gone high-tech as her services are being used by powerful clients both at home and abroad.
International people have consulted me, yes. I have clients in other places, out of the country.
There may be other world leaders in Quigley's astrological black book. But try to get her to name names, and you'll find that some secrets will never be revealed.
I am not going to comment on that. Really, I'm not.
Could the mystical power of the paranormal somehow be harnessed by 21st century technology? The Chinese call it qi. The Koreans call it kai. And in India, it's known as prana. They're all names of a life force that many believe pulses through all life. Now, there's a new movement that claims to use this mystical energy to heal. Incredibly, its creators say they can cure your ills simply by taking your picture.
People send us their photograph and the request for energetic balancing. Now, we will check those photographs with our spiritual technology. I can check for anything, any energetic imbalance.
Stephen Lewis, co-founder of the Energetic Matrix Church of Consciousness, or EMC Squared, claims that this so-called spiritual technology can correct his client's life force, thereby restoring them to maximum health in as little as 6 months at a cost of $600. His clients include film and television star Linda Gray.
Once you're in alignment with yourself, which is basically what it is, then optimum health comes. Your reasoning, your choosing process.
In an effort to discover how it works, we followed Tiffany Lawrence, a first-time client, to the movement's headquarters in Santa Monica, California. First, Tiffany is given a battery of tests.
Now, what I want to do is an energetic evaluation. I want to look for energetic imbalances.
Lewis measures energetic imbalances with a computer that he calls the Quantum Consciousness Evaluation Device, or QED.
What is your life force? On a scale of 1 to 100.
Within minutes, he claims to determine Tiffany's life force, and the news, he says, is not good.
You have a life force of 71, all right? Just let me tell you now, in about 3.5 or 4 months, your life force is going to be 100.
Really?
Yes.
After these energetic imbalances are identified, Tiffany's photograph is taken. She's now ready to go on the tray. Just past the reception desk, in a small alcove, is the heart of EMC Squared's operation, an 8-foot shelving unit surrounded by Tibetan prayer flags. Inside this simple box are 108 metal trays containing hundreds of photographs of clients currently being healed. Hooked up to the back of the trays is a computer that emits what Lewis calls specific healing frequencies. As the healing energy travels through the trays, the frequencies supposedly penetrate a person's photograph and somehow mystically connect to the real person. Lewis claims the secret is that a photograph captures an individual's essence, something he calls their hologram.
Whether it's a lock of your hair, a fingernail, a drop of blood, or your photograph is part of your hologram. And as such, it contains every bit of information about you.
Since being on the tray, Linda Gray says she rarely gets sick.
What it does and what it has done for me is make the illnesses much shorter in duration. I can feel them coming, I can feel them leaving. It's much faster. And so what it does to me is, to basically sum it up, it's the immune system is enhanced.
Can we truly experience healing by dropping our photograph into a machine? Stephen Lewis says his satisfied clients are all the proof he needs.
To have people begin to appreciate it and accept it is beyond gratifying. It's actually humbling.
Many believe we live in a world inhabited by psychics, ghosts, and people with supernatural powers. But a coalition of skeptics called Psychop says these superhuman feats aren't quite so super after all.
The intention is to just educate people in what really is going on.
David Willey and Joe Nickel belong to the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, Psychop for short. Psychop publishes its findings in the Skeptical Inquirer, which touts itself as the magazine of science and reason. But don't assume Nickel and Willey are merely closed-minded debunkers.
I wish to avoid the word debunking like the plague. I think a debunker is just the flip side of the true believer.
It usually ends up that when you present what's really going on in terms of physics, it does debunk the paranormal.
If you let go, it stays just where it is.
A former stage magician and private eye, Nickel is now an investigator of metaphysical mysteries.
Working as a magician, I saw how easily people not only are fooled, but fool themselves.
Believers often point to phantom figures in 19th century photos as proof of the existence of ghosts, but Nickel says the truth lies on the surface of the photographic plates used in that era.
A guy named William Mumler in Boston noticed that when he was recycling his glass plates and had not cleaned off the previous image thoroughly, he was getting these faint extras, as he called them.
As for close encounters with paranormal beings, Nickel thinks the majority of those can be explained by a psychological phenomenon called a waking dream, which occurs in those foggy moments between sleeping and waking.
People see angels, ghosts, alien beings. So this is the explanation for a lot of ghostly sightings.
But if there's one thing that ruffles Nickel's feathers, it's people who call themselves psychics.
People who claim to be psychic make me psychic to my stomach.
Nickel demonstrates how so-called psychic mind readers use a technique called cold reading, where they subtly fish for information by asking leading questions.
I'm getting an impression of someone who's passed over to the other world, as a father-like figure. Does this mean anything to you? Oh, your grandfather, well, I see.
While some psychics pretend to read minds, others claim the power of mind over matter. Exclusively for our cameras, David Willey agreed to unveil the secret methods behind these tricks. But as a professional, he warns viewers not to try any of these at home. For his first demonstration, Willey shows how people can walk barefoot on broken glass.
What I need to do is move sharp pieces like this that have got the point sticking up off to the sides of the bed. I don't want anything that's got a sharp angle in it.
Willey says just to be safe, glasswalkers may even push down any stray shards.
It just takes any odd sharp points that we've got left sticking up and smashes them down, which is much preferable to them sticking in my feet.
At last, Willey gets barefoot and goes for a walk.
Alrighty. Okay, so the bed's ready. Let's walk across it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I put my feet down nice and flat, that I don't slide them around, and if I do feel a spike on the bottom of my foot, then I'm going to move my foot to another place. I'm not going to push down that hard. And as long as I do that, everything is fine.
Willey completes his walk with no injuries.
And we're fine. If the glass doesn't cut, I'm fine.
Next, Willey prepares another popular mind over matter trick. Plunging his hand into a vat of molten lead.
This lead's probably now at about 600 degrees Fahrenheit. I want it a couple of 100 degrees hotter than that. Okay, now the lead's almost ready to dip my hands in, but first, I want to use this hot dog wiener to show you just how hot this lead is. I'm going to dip it in here, and you can see that's pretty hot. I mean, that's a seriously singed wiener there.
Willey says the key to survival is quickness and a surprising form of insulation.
I need to dip my hand in this water first, and then in and out of the molten lead, and my hands are fine. The steam that formed formed a protecting layer, insulated my hand from the heat of the lead.
Perhaps the most infamous acts that fall under psychic phenomena are lying on a bed of nails and walking on hot coals.
That's right. I can do it. That's right, you can. It's cool moss, 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 cool moss.
This is my bed of nails.
Willie says the secret to lying on a bed of nails is all a matter of even weight distribution.
We're going to have this gent lie on the bed of nails. We are then going to put this concrete block on him, smash it with a sledgehammer.
Make sure that when you make the bed of nails, you put the nails close to each other and you use lots and lots of them. Never lie on a bed of nail. More nails, the better.
There we go. Okay.
Willie reveals that the secret to walking on red-hot coals is knowing the right moment to take that first step.
Really is orange underneath.
Tamp the coals down, have them burnt down to red-hot embers, leave them for a few minutes before walking on them so a layer of ash forms on the top of them.
Oh, that's quite pleasant.
Since ash is a poor conductor of heat, it insulates a bare foot from the high temperatures underneath.
There we go.
But only up to a point.
Yeah.
Don't stand on them for too long. Get on them and get back off them. Your intent when you do a firewalk ought to be to get off the other end.
Ouch.
It's an uphill battle, but the skeptics at PsyCop are urging true believers to think twice about their blind faith in the paranormal and to open their eyes to the equally compelling world of science and reason.